to pop up there. All right, here we go. All right, guys, welcome back to another edition of the Tuddle Daily Podcast. I've been looking forward to this interview because we've been talking about it on this show for a while that a lot of people are dealing with issues during this pandemic, this global pandemic that we're going through right now. And you guys know that I've dealt with mental illness and some pretty bad stuff, childhood trauma and stuff like that. And I wanted to bring my next guest on to talk to me about some things that we can do to help ourselves through this tough time. My next guest is Jonny Pardoe. Jonny, how are you today, buddy?
I'm great, thank you. It's currently 8 o'clock here in the UK when I'm calling in, but thank you very much for having me on today.
So what part of the UK are you at right now?
I am I'm currently with family in a city called Exeter, but I usually live in a city called Bristol. So that's about 2.5 hours away from London, so the southwest.
Who do you support in football?
In football, we use football. So yeah, I am a big football fan, and I actually support my local team, which is a small team called Yeovil. But I'm also quite a keen Tottenham Hotspurs follower as well.
Oh, okay. So you must be close to London a little bit then.
Yeah, it's more my dad supports Tottenham Hotspurs, so that's kind of how I got into them a little bit, and he's from there. So yes.
Yeah, I one of my favorite trips was to the United Kingdom. I went over. I'm a big supporter of Manchester United. I know, boo, Manchester United, but I supported them because you got to understand here in the United States we don't get a wide variety of soccer matches. I don't want my audience to be confused when I say football, but Manchester United, I used to watch them, and I mean, I love Sir Alex Ferguson. That's one of the main reasons I rooted for him. So I digress. I want to get into this, Jonny. Tell people a little bit about yourself and where people can check out the content that you're putting out.
Yeah, of course. So it's a fantastic opportunity for me to talk on your show. So what an honor, and hopefully I can give some value to your audience today. So a little bit about me and how I got into the whole area of self-esteem and confidence, really, and what it is I do, and then I'll go on to how people can find me. So I basically started off. I went through school, went through university, and everything like that, and then I got into a working job where I was working in the public sector. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it wasn't the worst job.
What were you doing?
I was working in project and change management, which I still do, but I was working as assistant in local government.
Okay.
And yeah, so some of it was quite dull, but I remember. But I work in a good private company now. But I remember I was in a meeting one day and we were talking about some stuff, and I just remembered I'd had a lot of this. This is really boring. I just remember sitting there, almost falling asleep, and just really, in parts of my job, I was really miserable. And that got me to really think, right, what is it I really want to do in life? And then I connected with the kind of childhood of mine when I really liked to write books. And I'm an author, and I've written a few books now, but I got back into writing, and really I thought, okay, I wrote a couple of books, children's books I started off with. And then I decided, right, how am I going to grow my writing? So I got myself a mentor, and that got me into the whole world of personal growth, looking at how I can better myself and things like that. And we're kind of looking at a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago now. And when I was going through that, growing myself, and I decided this whole world of coaching, of doing YouTube podcasts and personal growth was really interesting to me. But through doing all of that, I discovered I had quite a lot of self-esteem and confidence issues. And actually looking back through the rest of my life, there's actually quite a lot of issues I'd hit when it wouldn't always show on the outside, but I actually had these insecurities, these worries. And that's what kind of brought me onto the whole area. Sorry, I think you're going to ask something.
Now, Johnny, I want to ask you. Okay, so when I was doing my research for this interview, you were talking about self confidence and motivation and stuff like that is like a muscle. You have to train it. But
Mm-hmm.
how much of our childhoods growing up plays a part in our confidence and being able to have self-esteem and stuff like that, because I feel like not enough attention is put on kids in their adolescent years, because I think confidence and self-esteem is also a learned behavior.
Yes, I totally agree. It is learned. It's so when we're children, we and then through life, we have experiences that kind of create these certain beliefs. And what can be created are these limiting beliefs when we get these thoughts of I am not enough or I might not be lovable. And yes, sometimes and a lot of our early childhood and early years can cause that. Now, from all my research, when I was really trying to pick myself up from when I was in a low state, as I kind of got into the whole area, I realized it wasn't always the case that you needed to have a traumatic experience. Obviously, if you had a bad experience at the start of your life, like perhaps one of the parents left or some kind of abuse was there, that's going to play a big role. But there could have just been one moment that happened to you. And then it creates these beliefs in our head. Now, when we create these beliefs into our head, we don't always consciously know they're there. So they could be hidden away for years, but we're doing this behavior or self-sabotaging ourselves sometimes. We don't always realize that it's coming from I am
I
not.
do that. I do. I do that so much. I do this. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but when you brought up self-sabotaging, I have done that so many times in my life. Um, and why do we do that though?
Well, we do this. Self-sabotage can be for different reasons. And one of them, as I was saying, was that we don't necessarily consciously know we have these limiting beliefs like I'm not enough or I'm not lovable. Now, these were two things I experienced for many years. And it's because in our brain, we're stored away of these kind of negative beliefs, and therefore we want to be consistent with what our beliefs are. And that could be one reason. And then the other reason is we sometimes get out of our comfort zones. We start trying to do something new. And our brain is also there's a part of the brain called the limbic part of the brain. Now, this part of the brain is there to help you survive. It's not necessarily there to make you happy. And if you start doing something that's unfamiliar or new to you, your brain's doing these things saying, whoa, hold on a minute. This is new to us. Be careful. And therefore we can draw back. And that's where a lot of things like fear can come in. So to overcome that, we have to take new actions and actually understand what these beliefs are and then address them, if that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense, and I've been reading a lot about this. Is that, us as humans, we forget we're just animals. We are just evolved animals, and we still have that fight or flight type deal ingrained into our DNA still. And people get confused by that. I really, really do think that they do, but it's in our nature. We are nothing but evolved animals, and I think over time it might go away, but we still have that survival instinct. And when you brought up doing new things, it's new and you're on alert. You're always like, all right, what's going to go wrong here? What's
Mm.
going to happen? Am I off basis by saying that, or?
No, no, no. That's a very, very accurate and well summarized kind of statement you were saying there. In terms of we are on alert, we're kind of looking for these constant dangers. And years ago, that survival instinct may have served some of our ancestors, like the cavemen, for example. Like, oh, is there going to be a wild animal that are
What is
surviving? So
going?
if something's new or unfamiliar, it will apply some of the same sort of flight and fright responses as well, as if you were facing that dangerous animal.
Now, Johnny, why do you think you were suffering from, low self-esteem, low confidence? Was there something that happened to you, or some event that kind of squashed your self-confidence or self-esteem?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because I quite openly share this as well. So for me, it was kind of, I started to work on the confidence as I got through my 20s. Now, the difference between the sort of confidence, what the confidence side of things is actually you take action and then you feel confident. You don't become more confident until you do things. But the self-esteem is actually about how much you like yourself as a person, regardless of what you've achieved. Do you like yourself, in the simplest way? But my self-esteem was very much derived from some early age. When I was 2.5, now I'm very fortunate. I know some other people aren't on this planet. I've got 2 loving parents and a sister. However, when I was 2.5, I had a baby brother who died, and
Yeah.
I was the older brother. And that meant a lot of, obviously, upset parents, and them having to go to the hospital and leave me with strangers and family. Well, not strangers, family, friends. But for me, as a little baby, that's what I'm thinking. Obviously, as a logical 29-year-old man now, and in my 20s, I can logically see that makes complete sense. They've got to go look after my brother, and I love them very dearly. But as a 2.5-year-old baby or toddler, I'm thinking, where's my mummy and daddy? Am I not lovable? What have I done wrong? Am I not enough? And that's going away. That went away in my belief system. And it took me many, many years until diving into this stuff that I actually discovered that's what the belief was. So that's what it was for me.
I am a big Doctor Who fan, and when you said mummy, one of my favorite episodes of all time was it was something child. Do you remember the one with them wearing the face mask?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and are you my mummy? Yeah, I was like, holy crap! I'm sorry, I'm a big nerd. So when I heard you said, I was like, oh man, that I got to go watch some Doctor Who now.
Christopher Eccleston, that was, I believe.
Yes, Chris, and that was also the debut of Captain Jack Harkness in that episode, John Barrowman. Remember when Captain? Yeah, that was the first episode with Captain Jack Harkness in it.
Oh yes, I do remember. He caught Rose, didn't he, on top of the balloon?
Yep, yeah. So, Johnny, tell people once again, because I got more questions, but I'm resetting right now. Jonny Pardoe is my guest on the line. He's written many books, articles that you can find online. He has a website. I think it's Jonny Pardoe, correct?
Yes, it's jonnypardoe.com. So Jonny, JONNYPARDOE.com. Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, now when I was having you on, I look at this. You have all these people that are online, and you take them as motivational speakers. They're just out there ready to sell a book or talk and have people come and see them speak and try to make themselves feel better. Um, is there a difference between what you're doing? Because I'm not calling you a motivational speaker, but you also got to understand that people that that are dealing with mental illness or depression, they're like, all right, what's this guy gonna do? I mean, how is he gonna help me uh get out of this funk that I'm in right now? Do you get what I'm saying? Because a lot of these people here, I compare those what's that guy here in America, that big hands guy that's
Tony Robbins.
Yeah, Tony Robbins. Okay. Like, I look at him as one of these mega like pastors that you see, like Joel Osteen or something, that are just trying to make a quick buck. And I think because I read your story, and you have gone through some of the things that I've gone through, but what do you tell the people that are in a funk right now, or don't think they're good enough for stuff? How do they get that? Because it's like it's easier said than done.
Mm.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think your question's about how do they start, and when we're sort of in this troubling phase, what we do about it. So
Mhm.
what I'm about is all about sort of promoting, helping people's self-esteem and confidence. And it's not self-esteem and confidence, it's not directly a mental illness, but if you feel rubbish about yourself, you're probably going to more likely struggle with things like depression or anxiety, because you're not going to feel so good about life or yourself, and you're not going to feel so in control. So I want to kind of look at the self-esteem and confidence. Now, what I suggest is always, what I'm keen on is a big fan of habit, and actually what are your habits day to day, because your habits are what you make you. So the first point I always look at with, whether it's a new client or someone's talking to me, someone messages me, is about actually what are your habits at the moment? What makes you feel good? What makes you not feel so good? Because most of us are so busy or so used to a way that we don't always notice how much on autopilot we are and doing automatic behavior. So it's really important to look at what you're doing, what makes you feel good, what doesn't make you feel so good, and then identify more of the things that make you feel good. And I like to suggest things, because some people don't always know, ask actually, what shall I do? What's good for me? And then do less of the things that don't make you feel so good. So that's the kind of the self-esteem side I usually start off with, as well as really understanding how beneficial it is for them to prioritize their self-esteem every day. But the habit is something I'm very, very keen on and passionate about.
What see, because I'm a little bit of a different person. I've been working in radio all my life, but I still have self-esteem issues. I still have confident issues, but I have always been one of those guys, is I'm very reckless. I know that sounds bad, but I am reckless, and I just do it. I do things and I don't care about the consequences. And that's why I've been able to get up in front of people or talk on the radio for a living. Um, but yeah, it bothers me. It still bothers me. I get done at the end of the day and I feel like, oh man, I really sucked today. And that stuff can kind of build up and kind of create a snowball effect sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really, so what using the example of you there in terms of talking on a radio. So that's a good example of how you've developed like confidence. I mean, imagine in the earlier stages you were more like
Oh,
kind of
yeah, I was terrified.
you're terrified, but as you've done it more and more, you've began to increase your confidence and ability to do it. So with confidence, I always say, and I'll go into the self-esteem and how you feel about and talk to yourself in a second, but with confidence, as you've done, it's about taking action and then doing things that don't make you as comfortable. But you don't, some people think sometimes, okay, on confidence, I need to make this massive jump. So if we use the example of public speaking, if someone's terrified of public speaking, which is a very common fear, they're terrified of public speaking, they think, right, okay, don't do it at all, to suddenly talk in front of 100 people. Now that might be too big a jump. So with confidence, it can be quite good. And this is what I did when I was scared of even saying my name in a meeting. It just be to speak in front of a small group of people, then another group, then, or before that, practicing in front of a mirror. So with confidence, it's about taking actions, but little small ones to give you momentum, because you'll get the feeling from momentum. Now, sorry, I'll let you.
No. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
And then what it's really important with your confidence as well, to back that up, and this does overlap with the self-esteem, is the fact that you regularly reference or remember what you've actually achieved, because our brains very naturally thinks in a negative way. So if you try and remember all the positive things you've done, like, what did I achieve today? What did I achieve this week? What did I achieve this month? And doing it over and over again, that'd be good, because most of us have faced so many fears that we don't even think about, like even just starting a new job, starting college, and things like that. So it's really about breaking it down and then remembering and reminding yourself of all you've achieved.
Is there such thing, we're talking about confidence though, but can too much confidence be detrimental though?
Too much confidence. So
like you get a big head and you feel like, I'm on top of the world and nothing can bring me down. And I think when that happens, you let your guard down on things.
Yeah, I think there's always a danger of that happening. I think there's kind of some people, and I think I did get a question about this the other day, when you might have too much confidence that it becomes arrogance in terms of, right, I'm just doing it now because it makes me look good. Now, there's a difference between that and actually doing something because you're comfortable with it, doing it over and over again. Now, I think there is a point where you get too comfortable, where you can get too confident with things. And it's always a good reminder to remind yourself while you're doing something, and actually not getting too carried away. What are you doing this for? What's this benefit going to do you? And just checking in with yourself. It comes back to lots of self-awareness and regularly checking in with yourself, which brings me onto the self-esteem side.
What okay, so we talk about taking chances, putting yourself out there. But I also feel like people are dealing with body image, not having confidence or self-esteem when it comes to that. That's really not something I mean, you're born with what you have, is what I'm trying to say. What kind of advice can you offer to people that aren't confident about the way they look, or their low self-esteem about their body image?
Yeah, so I've seen example. One of the misconceptions I sometimes hear is that people who, might be seen as a model or like famous or rich,
Mhm,
will be happy and like very have high
mhm.
self-esteem. And sadly, that's not always. Yeah, you're completely. I'm glad you're shaking your head. That's not true.
No.
No, that's not true. And we've seen kind of some dramatic examples of people really not liking their life and who they are, and actually the worst case scenarios happened. But I've also seen, people very, very comfortable in who they are and just kind of making the best of what
Oh,
they've got in life and everything
yeah.
like that. So that always suggested to me that we don't necessarily, it's not about what we're born with, it's about our mindset, it's about how we think about ourselves. And it's really, really key how we talk to ourselves on a regular basis. Now, nothing, I believe, helps your self-esteem than your own praise. So telling yourself what you've done right, telling yourself the great things about you continuously is a really, really good habit to do. So if you need to do it, maybe just 3 times a day, look in the mirror, just saying, right, what do I like about me? Even if it is challenging at first. Now, it's challenging for me at first. It's been challenging for people I've worked with at first. Just praise yourself over and over again. Now, in terms of there's another point to this. It's also who you surround yourself with is absolutely critical. So if you've got people and you've got this negative image that you're feeling about yourself, but people are kind of like backing it up, maybe your friends who you're hanging out with, or maybe they're not your friends, people you're hanging out with, it's that you've got to find, where possible, the right environment to be around. So if you're with uplifting people or people who are more positive, you're probably going to feel better about yourself. So that's an
Mhm.
important point I always try to make to people, as well as the self-talk. So praising yourself a few times a day. And the information, and another point, just before we come on to
Mhm.
your question, is about the information you listen to over and over again. Because if you're listening to a lot of negativity, or just something that makes you feel bad, it might not even be intentionally negative, but something about someone, you're listening to someone's life story and you feel bad about it, or you just hear you're watching a reality TV program or something that just doesn't make you feel good and doesn't make you feel good about who you are, then you're not going to feel good. But if you're listening to things that make you feel comfortable, that might be, uplifting quotes or some good music, or maybe just your uplifting motivational podcast, then that's going to make you feel a lot better about who you are.
Now, Johnny, when I because I'm a big Anglophile, I know a lot of stuff about the United Kingdom and Great Britain and stuff, and they have that great old saying, "Keep calm and carry on" type deal. Like, you think of the Brits, they just keep their head down. They don't talk about stuff. They just keep their head down and they just keep moving forward. Um, have you found, like, I mean, do people in the United Kingdom talk about this stuff? Like, is it a problem? Is what I'm trying to say.
Is it a problem in terms of not enough people talking about it?
Yes.
I think it's got better in that people are sort of sharing a little bit more. The main problem, I'd say, and this is me included, is that less men tend to be opening up to this kind of
Oh,
thing.
of course, dude. I live. Listen, I must sound like a real hillbilly talking to you right now. But what I'm trying to say is, and I mean that by the accent. Like, I don't think I have an accent, but I'm sure I sound very Southern. But that's the thing here in the South. Southern men in the United States, they do not talk about their issues. They just bottle it up inside. And growing up, it was like, oh yeah, oh, you're not a good, oh, suck it up, just be happy, and or have confidence and stuff. And it's not that easy though.
No, it's not. It's not easy to just suck it up and then hide it away. But I think these days there's certainly a lot more I see about encouraging people to open up, and there's more helplines available. Like we've got, I don't know if it's in the States. If you got something called Samaritans in the States,
Is that like a suicide prevention line, or you can call and talk to somebody? I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, we have that.
yeah, it's yeah, I know there'd be plenty of other sort of like alternatives and things like that in the States, but I can't remember Samaritans was particularly in the States. Now
Mhm.
they we have something called Samaritans. It's a very common one, like these sort of helplines. So we've got, that was just one of the examples I was using, but we've got these helplines out there, and I think we're encouraging more people to open up, but I still feel there's kind of almost this like, right, I don't want to say anything because it'll make me look, a bit
It's gonna make
weaker.
you look weak. It's gonna make you look weak, and we're as men sometimes, and I've been to the United Kingdom a lot, and there's a lot of tough guys there, and I'm sure they're dealing with problems as well
Mm,
too. But they're not gonna talk about it because they don't want their lads to think that they're weak or something.
yeah, no, absolutely. But the point is that progress, and this is something I learned, was that progress really begins when you're truthful about where you are. Because if we can't like address what the issue is, we can't solve it. So for me personally, when I was really down and then people started catching onto me and sort of say, are you okay? Even though I was hiding it for a bit, it was very much like, yeah, are you okay? And then I actually eventually opened up and I started feeling a bit better because I started sharing and then
Mhm.
progressing. But it is a problem that people were struggling to open up. Now, I think it's really key that people actually share vulnerability as much as possible, like who are brave enough to. And that's something I try and do a little bit to actually show it is okay to open up a little bit. And actually, when one person says they've got a challenge, another
Mhm.
person might be suffering with a similar challenge, and it makes them think, okay, I'm not so much alone. So I'm not saying that you need to suddenly start going on social media right now and start sharing all your concerns. I'm just saying that just talking to
Yeah.
one person may be the beginning and help you to make progress, and actually have a look out there, because there are stories of people who might be struggling with a similar situation, so you're not as alone as you think.
Johnny, man, I really appreciate the time, man. I think you got your word out there. I think people definitely need to check out your stuff because I read through it, and a lot of it is common sense. A lot of stuff is common sense that they just need to read it from somebody else to know that they're not alone dealing with this type of issue. Tell people how they can check out your content that you're putting out, your website, books, just everything.
Yeah, of course. So the website's probably one of my less used platforms at the moment, but I'm a frequent social media user. So you can find me on Instagram. So
Mhm.
just type in Jonny Pardoe into there, or I've got a Facebook group called the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset. And I've also got a podcast called the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset, where I'm currently releasing 3 episodes a week, which is just giving simple little bits of advice on different topics. So it might be about overthinking, might be about actually some top tips for self-esteem this week. It might be about if you've had a setback. So you find the Facebook group and also the YouTube channel and the podcast, the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset. So those would be the main places for people to find me if they'd like to find some more information.
Well, Jonny, man, I want to talk to you again. Hey, you're a good dude. I really think that this was a great conversation, because I'm usually the hardest on myself, and when I do an interview, I'm always like, oh man, that was shit. But it wasn't. This was highly enjoyable. It was very informative, and I want to thank you.
Well, I want to thank you very much for inviting me on the show, and I love your questions, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to reach more people.
All right, Jonny, man. I hope all is okay over there in the UK, man. And if you ever need anything, reach out to us. All right.
Brilliant. Yeah. Same to
All
you
right,
as
man.
well, Tuddle.